Okay, so the agenda obviously looks different because you're shifting now from observation feedback to instructional leader O3s.
Okay.
So there might be some times where I might say, hey, this time we're going to work on something within your classroom and we'll go
Yeah.
back to the other one, but mostly we're going to use this one.
Okay.
So to start off, we're always going to celebrate success. One of the things I noticed last week that was really effective, despite the first week of school craziness, you were able to give lesson plan feedback and coach Michael Lee. So what steps did you take building your schedule to ensure that happened last week?
Yeah, so I want to make this continue. Sunday night, I'm like looking ahead, and I wanted to make it recurring, but the reality I feel like is sometimes Molly's out of town and I have to do things differently. So I'm like I have time on Sunday that I'm like, look at my week. When are you actually going to do the things? Like, literally putting in there, you're going to write a lesson plan for the foundation in this block, and you need to go hide so that you can do that. Made it so I could like actually get things done.
Good.
And then when I didn't, I had like a hard like, you're going to stay up until it's done. You're not going to wait until tomorrow. You can't.
Good. I want to push you on something I already named not last week is not scheduling things for the weekend. So I want to push you to do this on Friday afternoons. What's going to be the impact if you do it on Friday afternoons?
I could see a world where that is giving my weekend back. I don't know why I scheduled this. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you. TFA made us set aside a day, and I always said Friday afternoons were like, that was my day, and then Saturday would be my work day. So, I hear you. I'll try to do more on Friday.
Friday 7th period.
I always just feel burnt out at the end of Fridays, and I feel like I don't work well.
For me, I do it Friday 7th period or Friday after PD because it's a brainless task. Even if
What
you're
is? Wait,
making
what
a
do you do?
schedule.
Oh, you make the schedule on
Yes,
Fridays.
yes.
Oh, that actually makes sense.
Make your
I'll do
schedule on
that.
Fridays, and you know what else it
That
helps
does
with?
make sense. I think I meant do like lesson plan
Oh,
feedback.
no. Friday afternoon,
Yeah,
make
that
your
makes
schedule.
sense.
So that way you're not doing it on the weekends, which is something I'm working on you with. And also, it really helps with the Sunday scaries. When I do my schedule on Sundays, I start to be like, all this stuff this week.
Yeah.
But when I do it on Fridays, when I look on Sunday, I'm like, I already have a plan for the week.
Yeah.
It feels different.
Yeah, that seems better. Okay, yeah, I can do that.
And then you had a question about whetstone. I want to talk about that real quick before we jump in here.
I think I did it right. I just want to make sure I'm not off.
So, you asked about how to take extra notes during the coaching session. My quick question is, are you finalizing the coaching session before or after you do it with him? Okay, so that's what I do. So this is his last observation. If you click on observation.
Wait. Yeah. Okay.
And so I don't finalize it until after I meet with a person, and so that way I can type in any extra notes in here while it's happening.
Got it. So I was like writing what he was saying in that Word doc, but I could write that right here.
Yeah.
Got it. That makes more sense. And then the action
So the
step
only part
is...
they actually see is like, can you scroll up to the action step part? Right here.
Is this
Yeah,
it?
you did it right. Yeah.
Oh.
Wait, let me see.
That's like my name
Yeah,
and
you
card.
assigned it right.
Yeah, I put it in here, I think, right? And it says assigned to teacher, and it's a green button.
Yeah, that's the
Click
only
it.
part they see. They don't see the rest. You can
Right.
type whatever you want in there. That's how I do it, so I
Great.
don't have a bajillion documents.
Okay, better. I will never take notes on Word doc again.
Otherwise it gets just to be too much.
Yeah. Okay.
As you've already learned with lesson plan feedback.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so the next part of our check-ins, I'm going to give you more space. I really spent too much time. This is data dashboard, and these are the questions I'm going to ask you every week.
Okay.
So the first bucket will be about algebra, and when I talk about algebra, I'm talking about the classes you teach and Josh's classes combined. That includes the double block, so just algebra as a whole. So the 3 questions I'll ask you every week about algebra are: what was the algebra lesson with the lowest percent mastery last week?
Yeah. Do you want me to answer that now?
I guess I can combine this into 2 questions. What is the algebra class with the lowest percent mastery, and what is your follow-up plan?
So I don't know that Josh is tracking mastery on here. Let me look. And that's something I'll push you to do. So I don't have data from Josh.
Okay, so for next week.
So I'm going to follow up with Josh about putting mastery in here. For my class, the lowest mastery was on the CCRS quiz measures of center, and I put a comment in here. The biggest issue was timing. I saw a lot of 60s, a lot of 70s, and like the last 3 or 4 problems were blank. So I did a reteach the next day where I was like, okay, you guys actually have this. I'm gonna give you 3 minutes to like finish it, because I'm gonna see what you did.
Okay. Yeah. So the first question I'll ask every week is, what is the algebra lesson from the last week, the lowest mastery, and what was your follow-up plan? And the second question is, what is the next algebra quiz, and what is your plan to follow up from that? So when is your next algebra quiz?
This Thursday.
Okay, and what is your plan to follow up based on the data?
I have a responsive teaching day on Tuesday, August 27th.
Perfect. Okay, now the same question for Algebra 2. What was the Algebra 2 lesson with the lowest percent mastery last week, and what is your plan to follow up?
I don't have data for Michael. This
This
is
is
a
what
coaching.
happened.
Right, so I need to have them put these things in. Okay.
And the only reason I specifically am asking you this week, normally I would name it and have you have it next week, is because I know you pinged both of them to do it. I saw the comment. Because I'm the creator.
Doing that.
Well, since I'm the creator of the document, when people ping others on it, I get an email notifying me.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It helps me. My memory is a blessing and a curse. So I remember you saying, "Hey, Michael, put the mastery in here."
Yeah. So my question is, I know that I put mastery in for every class, almost every day. There were days I
Doesn't have to be every day. Is that what you're gonna ask me?
And that, so I don't know if that's the expectation, or if the expectation is like hit key big days,
Yes, and so you could pre-note those, or you
like
can
where I
have,
want to see
Mhm.
what is mastery on this.
Yep.
And I'll do that with Josh too, because I don't know that they're both.
So you can put that down. There's a follow-up part at the bottom,
Thank you.
like flag lessons for Michael that he should include data.
And Josh.
Yep.
So I'm doing key lessons for master Josh. Great. Okay.
Alright, so the data dashboard every week I'm gonna ask, what's the lowest mastered algebra, what was your follow-up, when's the next quiz, what's your follow-up, and the same questions for algebra 2. Okay, for togetherness, that's when we take a look at your calendar. So what was successful about your calendar this last week, and what did you change for this week?
That was honestly, like, this is kind of personal, but one of the biggest things for me has been Molly and I have shared calendars, so I like look at what is she doing, so I know when I have to take care of my dog and be home in time, which is helpful for me. Like, I have to leave early this day, so if I'm taking Barry to the dog park, I need to like get my shit together and be out of the building. That's actually really helpful. I am using, one of the things that I think was effective last week was I scheduled times after the coaching session to go in and do a follow-up, so I could like hold accountable the 2 people to say like, last week we talked about doing a clearing concise model, and then we practiced it, and now I'm like looking to see that again in your lesson. So
Great.
continuing to do that too, I think is good.
And well, the red is when you're observing.
Red is like anything to do with coaching Michael
Okay.
and Josh, or red is basically like any of the like leadership
Great.
positions I'm in.
And then last week I gave you a feedback to observe Michael in the afternoon, so let's look and see if the shift for this week. Perfect. I love it. Thank you for doing that.
ML setup period.
Great. Here's the action step to work for togetherness next week. Try to move things off the weekend and into during the week.
I have nothing scheduled for my weekend.
Okay.
What I end up doing on the weekend is foundation stuff. Is
Okay.
that allowed?
Well, you would be doing that work for this class anyway, and so yes, it should be during the day.
Okay. Okay. Move things to the week.
I would, yeah. This is some of the best advice I got is you should never have more than what can fit on a post-it to do for the weekend, and it should fit in a morning. This is about calling to escape the room, but that's advice that somebody gave me. Post-it should fit in the morning of a weekend.
Okay.
That's where we want to get you. I know we're not there yet, and it's the start of
I'm
school
not
year,
there.
but we'll get there.
I'm gonna work on that. You're giving good advice. That's real.
Okay, let's talk about your coaching session. So for See the Success, you had a really, 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 really great moment at the end of your coaching session. You said, how will writing out the key points before the model and incorporating a stamp afterward make your future models more effective? That was like such a great moment. What was the impact of asking a question like that at the end of practice?
I think it incorporated the action step, so it was like, how is the thing I'm asking you to do actually gonna make you a better teacher? So I'm hoping that shift, like, it's not about doing it for me, it's about doing it because it's gonna make you a better teacher. And then he's renaming, like, oh yeah, this will have an impact if I can remember to do it every day.
And it's a great way to reiterate the action step and like how it'll fix his gap that he also named during the session. So really effective to just bring it full circle at the end of there and put a bow on it.
Cool.
Alright, today I want to dive into how you, sorry I lost my notes, how you frame and debrief the model. One quick thing. For a teacher like Michael, I know it has this part in the beginning for like name the exemplar, but if it's a brand new teacher, you can actually move past that and jump right into this.
Got it.
If it's something like they don't have anything up.
Like when I was like, what do you think a great model looks like?
And he just was like,
I don't know, you're showing kids how to do it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So with a brand new teacher or a teacher that you know is totally lost on something, you can skip that
Okay.
exemplar.
Yeah,
part
it even
and
says
right
if
into the
unable
model.
to name exemplar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think that would have saved you about 5 minutes.
Yeah, it went long.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that's what gives you 5 minutes right there. Okay, so with that quick thing named, I want to share with you an example of a coaching session I did with Mary. And so we always start when a coaching session is writing an action step, and you wrote a really strong action step for Michael. But go ahead and read through Mary's action step so you have that in mind when you watch this video.
Should I read everything?
And no, just the action steps. So what are the hows of our action step? There's 4, I think.
Yeah, so she's doing a show call to show 2 work samples, and then having students have a turn and talk, polling where they're at after the turn and talk, and then going medium, high, low for the
Perfect.
discourse.
So those are the hows. Now, before the model, what's effective about the question that I ask Mary? It is, I should have marked it right here. What's effective about that question I ask?
So you're having her, it's like a question designed to make her name the action step, right? Yeah.
And specifically, what
The
part
like
of
how to do the action
Yep.
step, right?
And
Right.
so, Yep.
So a question that makes them name the how.
exactly. What's going to be impact if they can name the how?
I'm thinking about like, if I say I need your model to be more concise, a teacher might take that as like talk faster or say less or skip steps. But that's not it. Like so having them see an exemplar name like, well, how is that more concise? We'll have them say like, oh, being more concise is like, here are the tangible things that you do differently.
Yep. And the more times you can say it, the more times it'll stick.
Yeah.
Sticky like how you send your thing. Let's take a look at this video. I'm going to start from the beginning too. Of Mary's coaching session. It's going to start with see the success, and you're going to notice how quickly it moves right into the see the model. Okay. Alright, so in the last few coaching sessions we worked on the quality of your modeling. And in the last few lessons I've been in, you've been consistently modeling when you introduce a new skill or when you're reteaching or reiterating a thought process. So what's been the impact of you regularly using modeling?
Students can name all the steps of a problem, and I also have go-to steps too. Whenever I'm like circulating, I can be like, oh, you need to do step 1, like check or omit. And so they have like an instant go-to.
I didn't even think about that when you're circulating, just to name that one thinking step. That's great. Awesome to see you in class. Today, I want to dive into how you respond to the data you collect, because another thing we worked on was aggressive monitoring, and you're consistently doing that also. Now we're going to take it next level. What do you do when you have data? So first, we're going to watch a video, and just to frame this video and reviewing the student work, the teacher noticed there was a consistent common mistake, or a consistent distractor, which I know you probably often see with your multiple choice questions, so that's why we're zooming in on this. So while we watch the video, I want you to answer this question, and write it down so you have it. What key moves does the teacher execute to have the students identify the error and then build the solution? So I'll say that again. What key moves
does the teacher execute? Then you put it here if you want more rooms. This is for your strengths. What keywords does the teacher execute to have students identify the error? And then build the solution. I'm gonna put this back over here so you can watch it on big screen, bigger screen actually.
I'm gonna fast forward.
Awesome. I would say after he had them turn in, what are the key moves he executed to have students identify the error and then build the solution? So he named like the two most common answer choices so that they knew what the error was, which kind of normalized it for the kids who got it wrong, but also like narrowed it down to just two for them to compare. So then he asked them to compare them, the answer and the biggest distractor, and have them evaluate about which one's right and why. Then he has the students name the reasoning and explanation for the correct answer. Awesome. I would say after he had them turn and talk specifically to debrief the answer, and then he polled the room. What's the impact of polling the room?
So if I forget one, I always name it and ask, what's the impact of doing that? So what's the difference in how I framed and debriefed the model and what you did yesterday?
I can't remember it exactly, but I feel like I told him to watch for how I frame the key steps. I don't even think I talked about the stamping part, which was important. And then I definitely didn't circle back after it and ask that same question that you had like asked her to like. I didn't say like, as you're watching me, look for how I am concise by stamping the key points and asking a CFU. And then after I finished, I didn't ask that same question to see if he pulled that out, I don't think.
You didn't ask the question afterward, but the question you did ask before you modeled is, I'm going to model, I want you to watch for what is the difference between what I do and what you did yesterday.
Oh, that's terrible.
It's not terrible.
Makes me really
It's
bad.
not terrible. And so it was kind of like a combination of see the model and see the gap. You have to first see and internalize the model,
Yeah.
and then
Oh, it makes me like feel a guttural
that's why we
reaction
have
for
coaching.
saying.
That's why we have coaching.
What's the difference between?
Yeah. So what would have been a better question you
Yeah.
could have asked Michael?
So I should have said, while you're watching, look for how I make the model more concise. Look for like what two key things.
I would just give Brett, what's the fact about my model?
You use the question first and then the question after. That makes her name the model.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you can say what's effective about my model, because the what of the action step was right in effective model. What's effective about my model, and then he should be able to pull out it was concise and you stamped it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end you'll say, okay, what was effective about my model? You're listening for it was concise and you stamped it, and then you can say, okay, what's the difference between that and yesterday?
Yeah. Yeah, that's better. Okay.
And it's usually the what helps you with my question, and how is what I want to hear. So since your what was right,
Wait, say that again?
the what helps you write your question.
What do you mean by that?
If the what of the action step is right, concise model, or right
Oh.
effective models, you can say, what is effective about my model?
Yeah.
And what you want to hear are the hows. Because you already named him in the coaching section, we're working on modeling. Okay, when you watch this, what's effective about my model? And you want to hear, it's concise, and you stamped it.
Yeah, okay, I see how that is. Okay.
Okay, so yesterday you asked, like, what's the difference? But you definitely want to ask him a question that's going to name the hows.
Right.
So what's your action step for your next coaching session?
So I'm gonna plan a how, like a question I will have either Michael or Josh name the how to meet the exemplar, and then after they see it in whatever form, I'm gonna ask that same question again, have them hit back the like hows of the action step and listen for any gaps, and then I'll ask them back if they have any gaps. I'll be like, and this, what's the impact of doing this? Yeah, that's it.
Great. And I'm going to push a little bit further and make sure your model matches the hows of the action step.
Right, because I don't think my model even included, maybe it did, I don't know, like a plain stamp.
It did, but I'm just going to include it in your action step just to make sure it does stick for next week. So the what I have is plan a see the model, that pushes the teacher to name the how of their action step.
to double check that it actually matches the
Mhm.
how.
So there's 3 things you're gonna do. So scripture model to ensure it demonstrates the how.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is script a question to have the teacher name the how.
Yeah.
And the last one is debrief to ensure the teacher names the how. The how is the part that they need to walk away with because they need to know how to do it on their own.
There's a running theme of the how through all those, yeah.
That's really important. Okay, so your next coaching session with Josh is happening on Wednesday, and I think you already had his action step. I believe you did, because you didn't get to coach him last week. I didn't realize
did.
you guys did. Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah. We're doing after schools sporadically, just based on after school schedule. I did coach him. I didn't do a video of him, but
That's
I will
okay.
do
I
a
only
video
wanted
of
one.
this one.
Yep, I only wanted one. What's your next action step you have coming up that you need to coach on?
I haven't observed him this week.
Okay.
I suspect it might. I actually have a question about Josh.
Mhm.
I think Josh's gap right now is a planning gap. So like execution wise, his action step is about using the least invasive academic intervention, like with prompting questions or going conceptual to debrief
Mhm.
errors. And at the root of that, I think, is that he's not planning questions
You're
for
not
common
internalizing?
misconceptions. Right. So I'm seeing that consistently not being a part of his plans.
The misconceptions, right? I saw that in your feedback. So his action step would be plan for misconceptions, and then what are the steps of the how?
Oh.
You can do that in a coaching session.
Yeah. I don't know how to show that.
Okay,
to
let's
her.
pull up a coaching session and let's practice. Let's draft it out.
Sorry, I know this is probably taking a while.
No, this is our practice part.
Oh,
We're
okay.
only at 22 minutes, and usually instructional threes are longer, and we're right to the practice. Usually instructional threes are 45 minutes. I believe that's what I calendared us for. Yes, we still got 19 minutes. I'm gonna step out real quick
Yeah,
to help Miss Francis.
that's fine. I'm
What I
gonna
want you to
start
do,
thinking.
the how is plan for misconceptions, and think in your brain what are the 3 steps you would take, and those are the 3 hows.
Okay.
So draft that out, and I'll be right back. So the what? Plan
Yeah.
for misconceptions, and then try to write 2 to 3 steps that you would take. you have so far?
Well, at first I wrote anticipate the misconception for like high priority problems. Then I went back and thought like, well, how do I anticipate those? And I was like, oh, you need to like identify the key thinking step from your launch that is the most likely for students to misunderstand. Then, how do you take a concept? I like want to say script a prompt that's gonna either take it conceptual or relate back to the model.
I think you can, for Josh at his level, you can say script a prompt that will cue students to the next step.
What do you like?
Scripted prompt question that will cue students to the next step, and you can name like without telling them the answer, but like what can you say, or what can you ask to push students to know what's next. So, scripted prompt that will cue students
without telling them the next step, right?
The next, yeah, without telling them the next step or answer. Great. I think this is I would stop.
Okay. Yeah.
What else are you thinking though?
No, that makes sense. I think I maybe give him too big of a piece to bite off. Like I had him scripting prompts that will take a conceptual to start, and really I just need him to start scripting prompts at all.
Good.
And we can work on making them
Eventually
better.
Yep.
Like right now we're like doing least invasive, but like
Yep.
I need you to script something.
Right. Okay. So when you plan your model for this, what do you want to keep in mind? You're going to do a think aloud model.
Oh, I was wondering like, do I show him an exemplar plan for this, or do
I would do a think aloud model.
of like how I break down the misconceptions?
Mm-hmm. Because as you were saying, he doesn't know how to do it. Remember how you had that first how and you already revised it because you're like, he's not going to know what to anticipate.
Right, and that's what I've told him, and I'm like, well, how do you anticipate?
So what are the two things that are in your house?
So do you have to identify the key thinking step they're most likely to misunderstand,
Mm-hmm.
and then script a prompt that's going to cue them to think of the next step?
If they're stuck there, yep. Great.
Um,
So your model should show those two things.
right, so I'm going to look at his lesson from Wednesday,
Mm-hmm.
identify what his key thinking steps are through his key points.
Mm-hmm.
Might have to hit those, just tweak them a little bit maybe, but hit those and say like, okay, where in here is our students most likely to go wrong? Like highlight that one, and then say, okay, what prompt is going to get them to be able to get this step
Great.
or next step?
But you're modeling it first.
Right.
Here's what I would say. Like,
So then Thursday lesson, if I'm coaching on Wednesday?
I think you could do Wednesdays. You're coaching them on Wednesday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
You can do Wednesday so you can show them what it would have looked like for that day. So you can say, today we're going to work on, yeah.
Wait, what?
Oh, I was just
Sure,
confused
it's
because
nice.
that usually goes in the name, but now I'm good. I'm caught up to speed.
Oh, I should write it here.
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh, I see.
So today we're going to dive into, today we're going to work on
Planning for misconceptions.
planning to address misconceptions, I would say.
To address misconceptions, right. And,
First, I'm going to model.
right.
What
And-
question are you going to ask?
So I'm going to say, what about my thinking? No. I was going to say, how do I plan for
What steps
misconceptions?
do I take? Yeah. What
Yeah,
steps do I
okay.
take to plan to address misconceptions?
Okay. Plan to address misconceptions.
Great. Now you script your model.
Great.
So I'm pulling up today's lesson.
Right. That will be day So I've been struggling with Josh on getting lessons in on time, and that's probably not what we need to talk about now, but at some point, I'd love to hear what your
Yeah, you might just have to
Great
run through the
strategies
internalization protocol with him.
Yeah. We co-planned on Saturday for a couple hours.
It shouldn't take a couple hours. There's a 30-minute protocol to internalize each math lesson that other schools use. You wrote it, so it's kind of can be weird and meta, but like you could do a think aloud of you running through the protocol with your own lesson. Okay, now you do it for the next lesson.
Okay. That's this one internalize, which is good. So this okay.
Shouldn't it be in this think aloud script or no?
Right, so they're right here. So of these key steps,
Mm-hmm. So you would say something like, so I'm reading through the
yeah, so I'm reading through his key thinking steps. I'm anticipating the associative property is where students are likely to make an error. In the practice, I'm going to identify where students are going to be asked to use this associative property and name it.
That doesn't match the hows of your action step. Hows of your action step are to like find the thinking, identify the thinking step they're going to struggle with. Is there a second step of
Yeah, so I guess this is frozen, but in his thinking steps, he's got 2 ways to differentiate between, if you scroll down here, it'll be differentiating between the commutative property and the associative property.
Mm-hmm.
So a common misconception is going to be students differentiating between those 2.
Mm-hmm.
They're unlikely to mix them up with distributions, they know what that is. So a prompting question, I think, that will help students remember the difference is to say, commutative has the root commute, which means to move.
Is it just the thinking steps they're looking at? Or is it the model problem and the thinking steps that they need to look at to determine misconception? Like for Josh, is it only the thinking steps he should be looking at to determine the misconception?
I don't understand the question, sorry.
Because in your how of your action step,
Set this. He might need to look at like the actual problem and think where in the problem where students going wrong.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah. Yeah, that probably makes more sense.
But not necessarily. Let's go back. If you can go back in Whetstone.
Sorry.
Okay, go back in Whetstone.
Mm-hmm.
You have the hows are identify the key thinkings of those students are most likely to misunderstand or miss or something like that. Script a prompt that will cue students to that step without telling them the next step or answer. So your think aloud script, like you're just gonna say what you just did. So I'm pulling up the lesson for this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading through. First, I'm gonna pull up the lesson and read through the thinking steps. And you looked at the model problem.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like, yeah. So first, I'm going to identify the key thinking steps. First, I'm going to read through the key. I think there should be a first one here. First, I'm gonna read through the thinking steps in the model problems. Then, I'm gonna identify the key thinking steps that I think students. And by planning your model, sometimes it helps you tweak your how, like we just did, because I didn't think of that in the first place either.
Right.
So you can go back up to your model now and say, okay, I'm pulling up the lessons for da da da. First, I'm gonna read through the thinking steps. Right? You're not gonna do it like in the way you do with kids, where you're like, first, I'm gonna, that's condescending, but you'll say, okay, the first thing I do is, and really actually talk about like how your brain's working.
So I'm gonna first read the
through.
model problem
Good.
and key thinking steps. Second, so now I'm not gonna say this because that's what I wanted to answer. I'm gonna say, I think from reading this, students are most likely to
Get stuck on.
why can't I think?
Get stuck on distinguishing between
Thank you.
commutative and I forgot the other one you said, associative.
Distinguishing between commutative and associative properties.
Last, I'm gonna
So
go to
last.
question.
gonna say exactly that, cause that's what I wanted to make. Last, I'm thinking, what question? Prompt, address, this misconception. Optimal thinking, giving them their answer.
In this case, I'm thinking, I'm gonna give an example of what you might say. Great. Okay, so go back. How are you fulfilling your action step right now? So go back to your action step, which was what?
So my action step was to plan a model, should pull this up, which includes a question that's gonna get the teachers to name the how.
Did you do that?
Yes, but I haven't asked a follow-up question yet.
Okay, so go ahead and do
So,
that.
after the model, follow up. What, I have it written down, I should just do that. What steps did I take to plan to address anticipated misconception?
Great. How does what you just planned address your action step?
So, the model matches the how, the question in front of it is gonna get him to name the how, and I'm gonna follow up after this model to make sure he's actually named the how.
Great. And then after this, you're gonna ask, okay, how is this different than how you normally
Right.
plan for misconceptions? That's it. That way, this is concise, and you're going right into practice, and so you have more time for practice than anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
How you
This
feeling?
is really helpful.
Good.
And like looking at what he's doing to plan for misconceptions right now, this is actually gonna really help too, so.
Good. And I have something for you. This is from New Staff PD. This is just a quick thing. New Staff PD, I led a session on modeling this year, so Michael has seen this before, and you can use this in the future with people.
Okay. Like that.
You have a lot of things going on.